Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you are new to me and it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and the continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my first weekly wrap up of 2024. We are 1 week down, and I actually have shit to talk about. So far, the year going better than the end of 2023. So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, first full week of January. Technically, this weekly wrap-up encompasses December 30th through January 6th, but it's the first full week of January, just so you know. I had a couple carryovers. If you watched my January TBR, which I'll link here in the corner, you would have learned that I carried over 2 books, and that's actually what I'm really going to be talking about this week. So, kind of a final thing from 2023, but I finished them in the first week of 2024. And I also have an unboxing. I got a Christmas present from a subscriber, and I thought I would open it on camera for you guys. So stick tuned for that. It'll be at the end of the video. So let's get into it. My first book that I completed was Game of Gods by Scarlett St. Clair. Yes, I finally have completed this bad boy. It's done. It's under my belt. I am ready for one of my most anticipated releases, Touch of Chaos, which comes out in March. And you can find all my other anticipated releases in my most anticipated releases of 2024 video, which I'll link here and I'll put in the down box below. But I am prepared for it. It's ready to go. Super, super excited. So let's get into this. This is the third installment of the Hades saga, which is Hades' interpretation of A Touch of Darkness. You don't have to read Touch of Darkness to read the Hades series, but I would highly recommend it because they go hand in hand. This is the third installment, and this is Hades' perspective of Touch of Malice from the Touch of Darkness series, which is the third book. We do show graphic sexual situations in this book. We have fantastical themes of torture, and I say fantastical because it's mythology. These are Greek gods, so they have their own special kind of ways. We also feature kidnapping and murder in this one. This one definitely has a lot of more plot development, a lot of big arching themes for the big war that's developing. So this is a direct follow-up to the previous installment, which was Game of Retribution. So you do have to read Game of Retribution to actually understand this book. You'll have to have read the entire series to understand what's going on, because there's stuff touched in this book all the way back to the very, very first book. So please be warned about that. But basically what this installment really is doing, from Hades' perspective, of course, is it's the war between the gods and how it's building, but it's on Hades' perspective. So he's seeing the more god side element, while Persephone sees, although she's a god, at this point in time, the people still believe, normal people, she still believes she's immortal. Not many people know she's divine. So she, through her perspective, you're seeing more of like the people element, but some shit gets started, lots of stuff is building up in this book, and we are deciding sides of this big war that is coming. Now, something unique to this installment alone, we do get some new perspectives. Dionysus and Theseus. Theseus is kind of our villainous character, and Dionysus is kind of a morally gray character. We love our morally gray heroes over here at First Lady Reads. It's my favorite color. Let's just be honest, okay? It is. So we get 2 new perspectives in the story, which start off almost side storylines, but they are still interweaved within this story. And I'm really excited about those. I was really, really excited about those. I thought they were a lot of fun. When I was reading them, I enjoyed the new perspectives, meeting new characters and things of that nature. So that is what is going on in this book. I can't really go into much of the synopsis of this book without spoiling the rest of the series for you, or the Touch of Darkness series, because again, it's Hades' perspective of Touch of Malice. So it's hard to talk about third installments when it's the ongoing story. It's kind of difficult without wanting to spoil everything for you, because there's a lot of stuff you don't want to be spoiled for this book. This story, this whole series is not a series that you want to be spoiled for, because it's awesome. And I have a great fucking time with it. So what worked? The new storylines. as I mentioned earlier, Theseus and Dionysus storyline. And when I mean storylines, we're not just introduced these new characters. They have their own kind of backstories, their own relationships forming, their own trials and tribulations, their own motives, their own desires, their own things. So we're getting legit new storylines, and that really does help further along this overarching plot. And it does kind of feel like it might be possible spin-offs. So I'm down for a whole, especially Dionysus, I am down for a whole fucking storyline of that. That would be dope as fuck, because he's really, really interesting. The arc that Scarlett St. Clair gave him and his backstory, really, really interesting. I think it could be definitely something really, really cool and unique. So I'm really hoping that maybe she does do that. But what I have of him so far definitely is whetting my palate, and I am loving it. Yeah, and some of his scenes are pretty fun, I'm just saying. Like, when I mean they get their own, like, relationships. Yeah, they get their own relationships. It's pretty awesome. Not gonna lie, it's pretty sweet. I loved the incorporation of the new characters, and not just the two that we got storylines from. We're also, in this version of Touch of Malice, it's the same events happening, but now we're seeing it from a god's perspective and seeing how the gods relate to each other, going through some of the things they're doing, especially Aphrodite for sure. Her sister is severely hurt, and a lover of hers is murdered. And that's kind of what sets off this catastrophe. And just seeing her through Persephone's eyes from a female perspective, and then seeing her through the divine perspective through Hades, seeing the trials and tribulations through her character alone on both components is really, really interesting. So I really enjoy that Scarlett St. Clair did that she only gave us the feminine perspective through Touch of Malice, because as a female, you could relate to that with Aphrodite. And then we get to see the divine element through Hades' perspective. And so when he's hearing the same lines being said, he is an internal monologue interpreting them a completely different way. He's interpreting them as a divine fear that they are touching us. They figured out a way, why am I being targeted? And when you're seeing through Touch of Malice, you're saying, why am I being targeted? Who did I hurt? Who did I piss off? Why was it my sister? It's not so much the God element of being affected, it's the feminine element that's being affected. And I really, really enjoy how Scarlett does that throughout this series. This is not the first time she's done it throughout this entirety of this companion style series. She does it throughout all of them very, very well with multiple different characters. Aphrodite happens to stand out more in this one because she is kind of a catalyst, for sure. Unfortunately, this is a retelling of Touch of Malice, which I already read and I loved. But everything in it was kind of the same stuff. The only real different things we got were the new storylines, which I adored, and a little bit of different interpretation of similar scenes. So unfortunately, I only gave this book 3.5 stars because what didn't work was kind of some stuff that did work, and we'll get into it. So what didn't work? This book is 569 pages. 569 pages. And I felt like through most of the book that there were too much of the new storylines and the new characters. I love them. I thought they were great, but I felt like they were too much. And if you really taken them out, you really wouldn't have a book. You would just have Hades' inner monologue during all of these other big events during Touch of Malice. And I felt really bad about that because I love Hades. I felt like he wasn't really focused on in this installment, and this is his interpretation. So I feel like he almost got put in the back burner of his own book. And I thought that was pretty crappy. That sucked because I love Hades. He's one of the main reasons I love this series so much. And I love the Hades saga as much as I did. And I didn't see that in Game of Retribution, which was just his perspective of Touch of Ruin. I didn't see that in Game of Hate. I think it's the first book. I think it is in the Hate Saga, which is just his version of Touch of Darkness. I didn't see him getting lost. I saw him standing out at the forefront, and this one I felt like he was kind of getting lost. And I think it's because of the new plot lines with the new characters and giving them their own storylines. Was that fantastic? Absolutely. But it overshadowed the main reason I was reading this book. So that was a little disheartening. When we did have Hades moments in the story, they were, a lot of them, pretty much regurgitated information. The events did not change. There were a few different ones. We got him by himself in like the torture chamber and some different conversations, but there weren't enough of them to stand out that this is his book. A lot of the moments we got with Hades were regurgitated moments from A Touch of Malice, which makes sense because Touch of Malice, they're together majority of the fucking book. So I was wondering going into this one how she was going to do that. We did get some alone time, but I just didn't get enough of him by himself. I got a lot of inner monologues, which was fantastic, and I got more to his perspective of what's going on during all these moments, but I wanted some alone time with him like I got in the other two books, and I didn't get that in this one, and that was a little disheartening. And Touch of Malice had some great sex scenes. Fantastic. So I was pumped for these. I know they're going to be the same sex scenes, but now I was getting Hades' version of them and the male gaze version and perspective, and they felt fucking rushed. Actually, I went to Touch of Malice and found one of my favorite sex scenes from that book and compared the number of pages written from the start to finish that scene in that book to this one, and it was 10 pages shorter in this one than it was in the other one. Rude. Rude. So rude. Did not appreciate that at all. I did not want these to be rushed because I love Hades and Persephone together. And I love the way Scarlett Sinclair writes a sex scene. Now, with that being said though, the new sex scenes with the new storylines had that same intensity and build up and burn that I got in Touch of Malice in these sex scenes. I just didn't get that intensity and burn in this one because I already had in the other installment. So it's kind of give or take. I've gotten the intensity, I've gotten the burn, but now I'm just getting the inner thoughts of the guy, and it didn't really add more to that sex scene. So that was really disheartening, and it felt like they were kind of rushed, and one of them was. It was 10 pages shorter. 10 pages. That's a lot. It's a lot of information. A lot of stuff can happen in 10 pages in a book, okay? So I was really actually very upset about that, and every time we got to a sex scene, I was hoping she'd change it. Maybe it was just that, maybe just like that first one or this one, but no. It was all of them. And there's this great one where he's chasing her, and she wants to complete one of his fantasies, and they're playing a card game, and she loses. So she has to fulfill one of his fantasies, and his fantasy is to chase her. It's the chase, it's the hunt. And I was so looking forward to that scene, but it was so much more intense from Persephone's perspective than it was from his. And I was really let down by that one. That was the one that I was really let down by. And that's the one I compared to. And it was just, I mean, that sex scene is fucking fire, guys. He's chasing her all through the underworld. They're teleporting, they're wrestling around, and then he finds her half-robed on his throne, and he drops to his knees, and it's like, you're my queen, and it's just fucking epic. And it felt so rushed in this book. It did not have that epicness and that intensity that I wanted to relive. I know going into this book that I'm going to be reliving a lot of the same things. I'm fully aware of that. Anybody who reads this series is going to understand that. Once you read the first book, you get it. You understand that there are going to be regurgitated areas, and you accept that. That's just something you have to accept. But she's done so well in the other installments with this intensity and building that you don't feel like in some of these scenes they're being regurgitated. And in one of my favorite scenes, I felt regurgitation. And I was pissed. I mean, it was still good, but it was not to what it was. Just, it wasn't. And that was really, really disheartening for me on that one. There was, especially towards the end of the book, I felt this in Touch of Malice, but I just felt it. And it was confirmed in this one that we are seeing Hades is strong. He is one of the main three gods, okay? He is. And in Touch of Malice, I felt like he was bending more than we have come accustomed to him bending. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with bending but not breaking. I'm okay with, yielding a little bit to Persephone as her power grows. He is letting her shine and becoming more independent and yielding. And in this installment, when we're in his inner monologues, it doesn't feel like that. In Touch of Malice, it looked like that, but it didn't feel like that in here. And it was confirmed in his own inner monologues that he was scared shitless of not being able to protect her and wanting to. Hades looked weakened in this book. Not bending, but more capitulating. And that was really confirmed in the last scene. And without spoiling it, the ending scene of Touch of Malice is left, you're like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Are you serious? Hades gonna lose his goddamn mind. Well, he did. But the intensity was not there. That fire that I love about Hades, that pissed off, I don't give a fuck anymore shit, lacked at the end of this book. And it felt more loss. And I understand why, because it's now where we know, without a shadow of a doubt, we already knew that he was fated to her, but it's in this installment and Touch of Malice, the join, that we know that it's not just a fate thing anymore. It's not a lust thing anymore. It is pure, unadulterated, I love you, and now I'm scared. He's at that stage of fear where he might lose her. He's afraid to lose her because of everything that's going on, and it's overshadowing that fucking kick-ass thing about Hades. Now, with that being said, I've got one more book where it's a duo, and we have both viewpoints in the same book. Touch of Chaos comes out March 12th. I'm hoping that we get that fire back, because I saw it fall and I was not okay with it. I was not okay with it. And it's not that it didn't work for the story, because it is propelling the story. It's showing growth and depth of character. And it does do that, but it's not what I'm used to with Hades. And I saw it so abruptly change in this book. And in Touch of Malice, it didn't look like that, but in his head it was. In this book, it looked and was confirmed to be that weakening state. In Touch of Malice, we were still able, it was concealed enough, I guess. He still had that glamour, and it's now kind of gone. And I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy. He needs to come back. So that needs to go away. I need Hades to be the kick-ass, I don't give a fuck guy, because that's who I count on. So now for my spice rating, I did give this 3.5 chili peppers. The new material sex scenes were great. They were fantastic. They were on par for most of Scarlett St. Clair's work. Very stimulating. There's this dance striptease makeout session with Dionysus and Ariadne, and it's fucking fire. Just saying. It's awesome. Thank you very, very much for that. That was a good time. It's a very good time. And again, I already stated that the previous material that we already knew was going to happen felt very rushed. It did. I did not appreciate that at the fuck all. Was it still hot? Yes. But I did not appreciate that rushing. I wanted that intensity. I wanted that burn. I wanted to feel it again. That's why I picked up a book that's literally just the male's perspective of the same story. But in a little difference. I didn't get that same burn and intensity as I did. However, the inner monologues of Hades in this story, they did give a bit more to build up intention of those scenes. And we got to feel more of that constant sexuality towards Persephone, that constant, every time he looks at her, he wants to jump her bones. We see it visually as Persephone's describing him in Touch of Malice, but in this one, it was confirmed that what she was reading was exactly the same, but it was 10 degrees hotter in his head because he was like fucking her 7 different ways in his head while she was just staring at him. And it was fantastic. But that intensity of those inner monologues did not translate into those later sex scenes. I got that intensity in Touch of Malice. It would have been really nice to have that intensity of the inner monologue translate then back to these sex scenes. That would have been great. And it would have made this book 10 times hotter. So, yeah. I gave this a final rating of 3.5 for me, but on Goodreads, since they don't have half ratings, this is marked as a 4-star because I still think it is a fantastic read. I'm still excited that I read it, and I'm still pumped for Touch of Chaos. I'm really excited about that. I cannot wait, and I'm ready. So, yay, let's do this. All right, the next book I completed this week was Devastate by Pam Godwin. Looks like this. This is the 4th installment to the Deliver series. This is in a series, but it reads like a standalone, although I highly, highly recommend you do not read this as the first installment of this series. You do read the first 4. So this is my opinion. You need to read the first 3 books to understand this book, but it is a story in and of itself within the series. So it is a series, but it's not. Now, I did listen to this one on audio. This was done by J.F. Harding and Tracy Marks. We'll get to the audiobook. Okay, we'll get to it. But we do feature murder, torturing, and beating. We have coerced consent, rape, graphic situations with graphic language, female-male coupling and male-male coupling, and a really unique forced triple component, which was very intriguing. Now, here's the summary. So we follow Tate Valdez and Lucia Diaz. So Tate is a former victim of Van, who we meet in book 1 and get more of in book 2. A former victim of Van who was rescued by Camilla, who we get to really know in book 3, and her freedom fighters. After helping Camilla in book 3 kind of find a pseudo-happy ending with Matias, he learns about a component in her life that possibly could bind her permanently to him, because Tate loves Camilla, and that is Camilla's sister, Lucia. Camilla believes Lucia is dead. Matias tried to locate her and couldn't find her, and found her up to a point to a crash in Peru and believed her to be dead. Tate does not believe that. He wants more concrete proof. So he sets out on a mission to find her and bring her back alongside Van Kiso, his former captor. Now, Lucia, while all of this is playing out, is alive and working for a vicious kidnapper and torturer, Tiago, in the Kidnap City and Kidnap Alley, where she is working for him as a rapist and a torturer. And that is where our story starts off. So, what worked? The continuity. Pam Godwin does a really, really good job of her continuity in her stories. This is the 4th book I've read of hers, and the reason why I said earlier this reads like a standalone, but I don't recommend that you read this as a standalone, is because of her continuity. She includes all the elements that you need from the previous books to understand the story. So, yes, you can read this story without reading the previous books, because all the components that you need to understand, to know who's who, to know why, are there. You know why Tate is looking for Lucia. You know who Camilla is and her relationship to Tate. You know who Van's relationship is to Tate and their kind of a little bit tortured past. Okay? You learn all of that. You have all your major component pieces to understand the buildup of the story and a little bit of the backstory. However, what you lack is the heart and the emotion behind the other struggles. So that is why I do recommend you read the first 3 books, because you will lose a lot of the intense moments. The way Pam writes the story, she gives you the facts, but she doesn't give you that intensity and that emotion that you need in this story of those facts to understand some critical moments in this story where she just conveys a lot of emotions with looks. If you have not read those previous installments, you will lose that. It will just be an intense glare or intense nod or just a nod of understanding where, you know, they have a past. If you've read the previous installments, you know why with that look is all is needed. You know why some of the plans are made the way that they fall because of the previous installments of things that have happened. So, do read the previous installments of this book or you will lose out on a lot. But her continuity is there. You have all the pieces that you need even if you have not read them. So I really do enjoy the way she balances that out. She does it really, really well. The storyline staying on course and keeping all to its own because of the so many moving pieces. There's 3 books prior to this. So there's a lot of information she has to give you to make you be able to understand the story. And she does a really good job of giving you what you need when you need it, but still keeping this story in of itself. This is Tate and Lucia's story. You know that, and you never forget that. She does a very good job of keeping all this other stuff on the outside and allowing you to view it, but know that your main focus is these 2. She did a fantastic job with that, so I do appreciate that because of all the moving pieces and elements that she had to implant in this story to get you to understand it if you had not read the previous books. Or to remind you of what happened in the previous books if you had read them and it just been a hot minute. What also worked, Van. He doesn't play a huge, well, he plays a major role in this story, but this is not his story. That goes back to her continuity of keeping this storyline between Tate and Lucia, the main storyline. But Van is a huge player in Tate's story. And we get to learn about Tate and Van's capture time. Not in super, super great detail, but we get enough detail that you get what happened. And you get why this torture passed and why this element of forgiveness is so... I don't want to say it's hard to give, but it's a hard pill to swallow, and why it's hard to kind of move on. You get it very, very well. And also you get to see Van again, and you get to see him grow even more as a character, because now we're seeing Van try to make amends for all the things that he's done. We've seen his story, and now in the last 2 installments, we've seen him kind of make amends for what he did to that person. And I just fucking love it. I love seeing his growth. I just love Van. I do. I love him. And anytime I get to see him, it makes me happy. So that was a huge bonus for me that he played a pretty prominent role in this story. And I knew going in that there was going to be something difficult involved with him. So I kind of already prepared myself, because the way she set this story up with Van going with Tate on this mission, I knew there was going to be some serious drama, because it was set up it was set up to be that way. So I was excited, but I was also very scared with Van. But I'm happy to say that I still love him. I still love him immensely. The other thing that worked was Tiago's. Tiago is the villain in this story. He is the one that is working with Lucia. We learn that Lucia is really not really working for Tiago. There is a lot of moving parts to their relationship. And I will let you read the book to find out all those. But Tiago's payment, which is at the end of the story, I loved how she did that. I loved it. The title of this book is Devastate. So I knew this was going to be kind of a difficult one. It was. I knew that heartstrings were going to get pulled. Emotions were going to be stripped bare and rubbed raw. I knew this. And I was not disappointed with that ending. I was not. I thought I would be. But looking back on it, I'm very happy that she did both versions. And without spoiling it, I can't tell you those versions. All I can say is that devastation is run amok in this story for our hero and our heroine. But we do have an HEA. But that HEA is a devastatingly hard-earned one. And I really enjoyed that the villain did that. That she left our villain with a layer that's not just villainous, but more of a macabre twist of destiny. It's so dark, it's beautiful, but it is painful. If you see beauty in pain and darkness, this is an installment you need to read. This is a series that you need to fucking read, but this is an installment that will really, I think, just set you on fire. It was really well done. That ending was very, very well done. And I enjoyed it very, very much, for both versions. And I'm not saying there's two different versions of the ending. It's just there's two sides to the ending. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that both sides were done really, really well. And I enjoyed that immensely. However, what didn't work? There was some things, and I hate to say this, but there was too much action in this book. And when I mean that, hold on, I think I'm losing my light. Let me turn my light up a little bit more. There we go. There, I'm a little bit brighter now. There was too much action in this. And the reason I think there was too much action in it is because, and this is the same issue I had with Disclaim, which I read last year, but I didn't talk about it because I was in that, slump where I wasn't like doing anything, but I did read it. And this was an issue I had with it as well. Because of who Camila was and who her hero was, we are bringing in the cartel. Okay. And that involves setting up a whole nother world over here. But then that kind of cartel element kind of stumbles into this story with Tiago and his kidnapping ring, where he kidnaps people and then ransoms them to their families for thousands and thousands of dollars. There's other dark elements that Godwin has to bring in to at least these last two installments to cause a lot of the drama that becomes internalized struggles for our characters to overcome. And I feel like the beautiful thing about Deliver and Vanquish was that there was very little outside. It was all internal. Deliver, between Josh and Liv, is those two together. And then you have Van in there. Vanquish is Van and Amber. And literally just those two fucking people, okay? And then you get into Disclaim and Devastate, where we're bringing outside drama and entities in. And I think I'm losing that internalized passion and emotion and pain and anguish and ecstasy and all of the fucking emotions between these two people. I'm losing it because of all this extra added stuff on the outside, which is piling on top of them that they have to overcome as a couple. But because of that, I'm not getting the building between the two because they have to fight the outside. And I feel like there's just too much action. I feel like that was one of the most beautiful things about the first two installments, was it was just really the main couples for 90% of the time. In these last two books, this one in particular, it's not just the two of them 90% of the time. It's the world majority of the time, the world that we've created, that we put our characters in. So I don't get a lot of building between Tate and Lucia. It's very instant between them because of the drama they have to overcome. It's what it feels like. And I lacked that, and I really miss that because I love that about Godwin's writing. I think she does it really, really well. And it seems to, I seem to be missing it in at least these last two installments. This not necessarily didn't work because you tend, in a lot of these companion series, you tend to, after you read enough of them, you start to see your obvious next players. You start to see them. And this one is no exception. It's very obvious, but it was very obvious early on. Usually that obviousness comes towards the very end. And I can accept that. We're closing this down. I want to keep you ramped up for this next story. So I'm going to give you some. I knew fairly early on that this next book was going to be who the characters in the next book were going to be. It was very obvious. The female half was very obvious really, really early on. And the about 75% of the way through, I knew who the other half was. And I kind of peeked at the fifth book just to see if I was right, to see if this was actually a concern of mine or if I was completely off kilter, because that would have changed this. I'm not. I was not wrong. I was not wrong. And that kind of bothered me because I got it so early. And I can already see that story because of the characters that were chosen. And that kind of bothers me. Because I didn't see that with any other installment. I knew the third one was going to be Camila because she was the next one that we met. I knew, but I didn't really understand how we got Matthias. I knew this one was going to be Tate and Lucia. I figured that out, but I didn't understand how the story was going to play out. I didn't understand that. And I thought maybe it wasn't Lucia. That was just the catalyst to find. You know, I knew the starting point. I couldn't see the ending. And I feel like I can see the ending for the next story based off of how she is given these characters. So I really, 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 fingers crossed, hope I'm wrong. Because Godwin has proven me wrong before. So this is not necessarily that it didn't work. It's just something that annoyed me. Also, the one thing that I knew going into this book, once they got to Caracas, which is where they go, the Kidnap Alley. That's the location they're in Venezuela. Once they got there, I knew kind of a third act moment that had to create a resolution. And that was really annoying that I saw it. Was it fucking epic? Absolutely. Was it needed? Yes. For this storyline and for these characters, abso-fucking-lutely. But it was annoying that I knew. Because I don't want to guess that ending. Because when it happened, it wasn't a moment of, oh my God, I'm right. It's a moment of, I fucking called this. You put these characters together in this scenario. There was no other way to write it. You didn't give me any other alley to possibly think down. Once the players were all in place, then it got solidified. And I was like, shit. And that was kind of annoying because I did not get that in the other two installments. And disclaim, I didn't get it either. This was the first one that I got it in. And it's with one of my favorite characters, and that was kind of depressing, but I knew it was needed. So I was glad that I saw it because it further developed the growth of one of my favorite characters. But I knew it was coming. And because I knew it was coming, that shock was gone. So the intensity that was written around it wasn't as shocking because I was already able to prepare myself for the entirety of the book. I don't know. Maybe I needed that preparation. Maybe it would have been shocking if I didn't know. Maybe I couldn't have handled it. I don't know. But it was just, I felt very unnerved that I already called it. And I was like, damn it. Saw this one coming. Damn it. And so the very, very end, not the ending resolution, but like the very, very end of the story, was kind of odd. I don't think it's over though. right now it feels like hands have just been washed clean of the last 8 fucking years. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that an assassination attempt was made. It doesn't matter that this happened. I don't feel like it's done, but the way it's written, it is. So I'm kind of like, I don't know how to feel about that one. So it's kind of in the does it work, does it not work kind of category. For a spice scale, this book I gave a 3 on the chili pepper scale. We have an intensity with layering of dominance, and the dominance is layered in without words. So it's not so much dominant language and toys like we've seen in previous installments. Deliver, we had the attic and the toys. Vanquish, we just had Van. And we had Van. That's all I gotta say is Van. And Disclaim, we had the situation and the scenarios and the resulting behavior to stay alive. That equal dominance. The dominance in this story is more conveyed through looks and tangible feelings. Godwin, when she's writing these dominant sex scenes, it's through her description of the world around her, through the tangible senses, through the touches, through the feel of the sweat on the body, through the gazes of Tate and Lucia, through tangible things that I can't actually touch it because it's in a book, but if they were real, I could touch them, I could see them, I could feel them. It's not words, it's not toys, it is an aura that she's creating with her dominance in this story, and I thought that was fucking hot. Holy shit, it was awesome. There's one sex scene in this book that is so hot, not even gonna lie to you, super, super hot. So I'm listening to it in my headphones, driving in a car with my daughter and my husband. I turned it off because I was afraid that my car, at some point in time during the scene, because it was that hot, would connect to my phone and start playing it out loud without me realizing that my headphones were in. It's happened before, that's why it's a genuine fear. But I'm like, I do not need this happening during this scene, so I'm gonna stop it and wait till I get home. It was not safe for my environment, even though no one else could hear it. It was that hot. It was awesome. It was great. Tate. He conveys, Van said it himself. He's like, I'm aroused by submission. And you can tell he's not a submissive. He's not. He is not at all. And it's awesome. It's so cool. I do also like the way Godwin wrote her sex scenes. So we do have rape in this book. And there's rape in other books. And so it got me thinking about how she writes her rape scenes versus her sex scenes, because sometimes they're with the same people. And I've noticed it before, but it was more solidified in this one, was the way she writes her sex scenes and her rape scenes. This polarity that she writes with. When she's writing a rape scene, there's no emotion. And if there is emotion, it's emotion from the victim. Very little from the aggressor. What we get mostly is a very cold and callous physical description of what is going on. We get the physical sensations of what is going on and only the mentality of usually the victim. But when she writes her sex scenes, she gives tangible, arousing, all-encompassing feelings, physical, mental, emotional. She includes everything. And I really like the way she does that, because having rape in books is very hard to read for some people. It is a trigger that a lot of people can't handle. But she allows you to be able to clearly identify the difference. Even if this is the scene that you walk in on and you don't realize a rape is happening because you walked into the middle of it and you did not realize that there was no consent given in the beginning, she writes it in a way that you clearly understand it. And in this book in particular, I mentioned that there was a forced triple component. Without giving the story away, an act has to take place to prove how far one party will go for the other. And the act in question has already been done in a forced manner at one point in time in the past. And now it has to be forced again, where we get our coerced consent to help show how far one will go. So the combining of a consensual partner and a non-consensual partner together to make this act happen. She writes this consented scene. How do I say this? She writes this non-consented scene in a consented way that you still know an assault is going on, but is an assault not of the physical body, but of the mind, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to mentally break the person that it's going through. But she writes it in a way that prevents the breaking from happening. Pam Godwin, when she writes difficult sex scenes, because her material is dark, she's not an author for everybody. She thinks before she writes this. She just doesn't write it where it's going to trigger and shock value you. She understands that this is going to be difficult for you. So she gives you the tools you need to get through it, and she does it exquisitely in this scene. This is a very intense, emotionally driven, raw, physically assaulting scene. And it was fucking epic the way she wrote it. It was gut-wrenching. It was devastating. This is the scene of why this book gets the title it fucking gets. Okay? Straight up. This one and one other one. There's your devastation. That's how she gets the title. But she writes it in a way that you know it's wrong. But every member in the group is still doing their best to take care of each other. And I thought it was fucking epic. I thought that was epic. And then you have your conclusions, which kind of, conversation happens. We get some kind of closure. We get a closure. And she's very big on that. In all of her books, there is some sort of closure to the atrocity that was written. And that is one reason why I trust this woman writing this kind of work. I am not worried when I see rape as a trigger on one of her books, because I know without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to be difficult. But she's going to walk me through it, and I am not going to feel violated after reading it. I know I'm not. I've had 3 books that gave me that safety net. And this one, she solidified it. Well, hold on. I've had 3 books with straight actual rape, and then one of them was it? I'm still kind of debating on that one. But I've had experience with her, and I trust her with this topic. So I had a great time with the sex in this installment. But this series is not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but I definitely plan on continuing it because I know what the next book is about, and I want to really hope that I'm wrong in how it lays out, but I have this glimmer of hope because of the way it looks like it's starting out, that I might find myself another Van. I don't know. I hope I still see him some more because he's my favorite in the series. Like, I don't want to say goodbye to him. I don't want a replacement. But she made me love him. So we'll see. We will see. And the last book I worked on this week, I'm still working on it, is Christina Marziadis's Ghost. This is the third installment to the Love Letting series. I am about 75 pages of the way through, and I will be doing a full book review on this one, so full. But I just want to let you know that at about 75 pages of the way through, we feature torture. We have what looks to be human taxidermy, mystical body possession, and talking birds. The first 75 pages of this 900 and something page book. First 75 pages. I know walking in, nobody's fucking safe in this. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. So, there you go. All right. That's what I worked on this week, and now let's get into my unboxing that was sent to me by a subscriber. So, let's find out what it is. I'm gonna turn my light up a little bit. I keep losing my daylight. Oops. There we go. All right. Let's open this. Okay. Alrighty. All right. I've been on a Lord of the Ring kick lately, so when I saw this on your wish list, I knew I had to pick it up for you. Hope you love it. Abby, from Abby Jones. Thank you, Abby. Shut the fuck up. That is awesome. Recipes from the world of Tolkien. It is a recipe book based off of Lord of the Rings. That's fucking cool as shit. I love it. Oh my God. I'm going to be... Oh, this is awesome. Oh my God, thank you so much. This is so cool. I'm definitely gonna have to try some of these. And look, we got the Shire. And then we have the back. Let's see, let's find a quick recipe in here. Date and sesame bars, forest fruit bruschetta. Let's see, warm mushroom crostini. Food and the elves. The green dragon's mushroom and leek pie, squash and goat cheese bake. Yeah, some of these sound fucking fire. Fell winter root vegetable stew. Ooh. Onions, red chilies, garlic, carrots, parsnips, celery, tomatoes. Well, that just sounds delicious. Oh my God. Spiced apple butter. Yeah. I'm gonna have some fun with this. Thank you so much for this. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for thinking of me and wanting to give me a Christmas present. This definitely I will definitely put this to good use, and I know I'm going to love it. So thank you so much. Thank you, Abby. All right, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoy this, and I will see you all soon with another video. And again, Abby, thank you so much. I will let you know when I make something and send you a picture so you can know that it's getting used. I have a feeling I'm going to be using this quite a lot. Yes, I feel like that. Biffiers, jelly, and apple pie. Yeah, I feel like I'm going to use this. Bye, guys.